And when people's needs are met, the confidence goes up. And when confidence goes up, productivity goes up.
What tips do you have for leading a team with early career individuals with their first job out of college, those sorts of a thing?
Oh, I love this one. I'm going to jump in because this is my
right?
Yeah.
It's your wheelhouse, right?
And I think, there's something when we look at early career individuals, we're also recognizing that, especially Gen Z, you're really talking about early career, anybody who's like 24 and under, they are the least likely generation to have a job before they came to you. So they're not the generation that has the high school job. They're the generation that typically is more involved in extracurriculars and is doing other things. And so this is part of, recognizing that when we we onboard younger individuals, that they're going to need help with professional skills. And you can actually go to my LinkedIn. I've got like a Gen Z checklist of things that you want to focus on when you're onboarding, particularly when it's remote. But you'll have to make things that, if you've been in the professional mode for a decade, there's some things that seem really obvious, like don't be on your phone when you're talking to somebody, that they may not see as rude or disrespectful. And so I see a lot of times we're frustrated and irritated because they're doing behaviors that we interpret as disrespectful or, lacking confidence, a million different things. And they're really just living the way that they've been living in college, and there's no difference for them. So getting very explicit about what you expect of them and their behaviors, even especially, hey, when we're on Zoom meetings, we expect you to be in an environment that's quiet, that's well lit. We expect you to be on video and not answering emails. You'll have to be that explicit. That's one area. So we talk about professional skills and professional communication. You'll have to train them how to do that. I also look at, again, going back to self-awareness. If you're under 25, your frontal lobe and your executive functioning is still coming online. And so you're going to not be as self-aware as somebody who's been around for 40 years. So you've got that self-awareness piece again, which I always come back to. But then you also have this training around self-advocacy. No one, when all we have are these little screens and these little videos of each other, we really don't know how we're doing. We could all get off this call and have a million things happen, and the rest of our team has no idea. And so self-advocacy is a developmental skill that you learn in adulthood. And instead of, you predict as a parent that your 6-year-old needs a snack. Well, when you're 23, nobody's predicting your needs anymore. And that's kind of shocking. So self-advocacy is saying, I know we're working remote. Here's some things that I need. I'm struggling in these areas. We have to train people to speak up so that we can help them. And that is a new skill developmentally for most young employees. Sure. What do you think, Brad?
I really would agree with much of what you said there. And clearly it is your area of expertise. But I mean, just to tag on to that, I think something else that comes to mind as it relates to self-awareness, again, as leaders, is when we're bringing on some of these folks that might not have some of the skills and abilities that seem obvious to us, like you're mentioning, Lindsay, like as the leader, we need to self-manage, to not assume, right? To not like think we know what's going on in their head or in their world and try to solve the problem, but rather cycle back and just get into their world a little bit. Ask them questions, understand where they're coming from, so that we have common ground. And once we've found the common ground, this is where leadership happens, is when we get on that common ground together and we say, here's where we're going. Because just, hollering down from on high at this, newbie who's coming to your organization is like, that's not development and it's not leadership for sure. And so, but I think when you talk about some of these generational gaps, Lindsay, that you mentioned, the phone up face or whatever, like, especially as those generational divides start to happen, it can become really easy to make assumptions about, like, well, that youngster is, this, that, or the other. And it's like,
that's right.
Really? Like, is that really what's going on? Do you know that for sure? Because if you stop and ask a couple questions and then listen well, you might find it's something very different.
That's right.
Sure. I've, had situations, anecdotal situations in my life where I've a little hack that I've learned is I've befriended somebody in that in that generation, right, in that age group, and I've had them explain to me, like, is this something that's just you all is in your your cultural mindset, or are they just being a jerk to me, right? And so they've kind of been able to act as somewhat of a translator. I know I'm going off on a tangent a little bit there, but that's helped me out in my career.
Absolutely, that's great.
Right. So we have more questions coming in. One thing I wanted to ask, though, in this time of pandemic and working remotely, are there any tips that for those leaders out there that are listening that can help motivate their teams on a daily basis when working remotely? Is that something that either of you have been working on or experienced lately?
Mm-hmm. You want to kick us off, Brad?
Yeah. Okay. So a phrase we use all the time at Advisa is confidence is the currency of productivity. And it's really true. I mean, so much of, I think, to go off on a little tangent here for a second, I think I love that we're using the remote work thing as a platform to talk about some of this.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I think about remote work, I'm like, or leading from a remote space, it's like, well, this is leading. Like, it's leading regardless. Like,
right.
Most of these principles apply across the board. But so to come back to, like, confidence is the currency of productivity, is meaning, so much of what it is to motivate our people is to unlock doors for them, right? It's not that I give them some great speech and like amp them up and they go and knock down a wall, right? It's rather like I figure out how to simply remove a couple roadblocks for them so they can run faster. And what we know is that most of the time that's a confidence thing. And so we talked a little bit earlier about data-driven tools. Again, for us, it's predictive index. Within that, what we know is that we're getting a measure of people's needs and drives. And when people's needs are met, the confidence goes up. And when confidence goes up, productivity goes up, results go up, motivation goes up. And a lot of the negative things that we'd rather not be a part of our culture simply fade into the background. So I think it's really about that confidence piece for me. Is the first thing that comes to my mind.